This is our adventure, being host keepers at Porphyry Island, and it was amazing. Every night, ever since our first night there, my son Ben has thanked God for Porphyry Island in his evening prayers. Sam, his brother, has thanked God for the creatures that he fell in fascination with while we were there. The snails, salamanders, and fish are mentioned every single night. Every night. Yeah. Now, these guys were only 7 and 9 that last week in August, but it's not like they're strangers to adventures and wild places. That wasn't it. It's something about Porphyry Island. It was a privilege to call ourselves host lightkeepers. And it was an easy one to nab, I have to say. Yes, we were volunteers, we helped however we could, but nothing felt like a chore, nor an obligation, just a privilege and a joy. We went first in June, riding the rocket. See, it says rocket right there. For the island cleanup day. We don't have a boat, right? We've never been out on the lake. We've taken Archie trips and seen it from the harbor, but we'd never done anything like that before. It was amazing just to get there. We wanted to see the place, get a sense of what we needed to be prepared for when we returned as host lightkeepers. So that cleanup day proved to be an accurate precursor. It was, again, all privilege, no chore. I mean, Ben bonded with the bush cars. That's what he did. Sam did help plant the garden for a few minutes. Mostly, however, he caught up with old friends. Yeah. I swept and I aired, and I did set out the picnic. But if you have a skill, something that you are good at, comfortable, happy to do, that might be helpful in restoring and maintaining old buildings on a harsh and yet a fragile landscape, what a difference you could make in a week as a host lightkeeper. With a little planning, you can make that much more of a difference. The lake and its weather, it beats and it buries, it scours and it scorches. And meanwhile, we're bringing more and more people out. The number of guests just keeps on rising. There is much to do. The skill that I brought to our week was just a willingness to whip words into shape. So volunteering for me was arduous. It meant sitting for a quiet afternoon pondering policies and procedures while Ben and Sam took care of themselves. Okay, they had many watchful eyes helping out. Life was not hard, yeah. So the days were quiet in many ways. It was time to talk to roaring waves, to saturate rain gear until it was nearly wetter than the lake itself, in wet weather fun. Time to bury boys in warm black sand and catch a bucket full of minnows. He would just dip them off the pier and come up with like 40 fish in his bucket. He loved it. He never did actually make it sing, but he tried. Time to tend the fire and watch day give way to night. You are so far from home and the city's hum and light. The ride to get out there once took 20 minutes and another time 3.5 hours. It's a big lake. The depth of the night proves how far you are away, layer upon layer of stars. We live, people from Toronto think I must see so many stars, and I thought I did, but it's a whole another level of star watching. And every night the boys would ask me to wake them up so they could watch for the Perseid showers. And I did manage to wake each of them once, but it was not easy. They could not open their midnight heavy eyes wide enough to catch those falling stars. They tumbled, deaf and unmoving, into slumber every night as the sun set, and they would not wake again until it was well over the horizon, sleeping deeply in the island quiet. Yet our week there was not exactly solitary. This is a lighthouse. It marks a well-traveled passage. People kept popping by. Custom officers in flak jackets, this was very impressive to my children, roared in on that powerboat to check on us. Float plane, boaters, paddlers, some on familiar stomping ground, Some were making an impromptu detour. They're like, when did those docks appear? I've got to check that out. Others on long-planned pilgrimages. And then there were the guests who booked their passage on the Sail Superior rocket, which is the first summer that was available. We couldn't have gone without it ourselves. Well, maybe, because there's lots of nice people that have boats, but that's what got us out there. I met a couple from Brazil and Los Angeles, another from, I think it was Spain. I talked to an accountant from New York City, retired teachers from Toronto. They didn't even really know where Thunder Bay was and had a vague sense that there was a Lake Superior you could see on a globe. But they found us online, and they thought, I want to check it out. It was pretty cool for my kids. Right? They're like, oh, where'd you come from? Brazil! Wow, and why? Beyond the day trippers, we were also living in close proximity to a bit of a crowd. We had Emily, Ben, and Tazzy, who you just met earlier, those 3 students working for the summer thanks to the federal jobs program. They were wonderful people. They were so kind and generous to us. There was Adrian and Jane, you can see them down at the end of the table there, with the Artist in Residence program that's been running at the island for several years now. Amazing art coming out of that program. And there you see Donnie, and you've met Paul Morley. The volunteers that are the light keepers. They've been there every summer since this program started, and they've just headed up this incredible bringing together of resources. Ben the Bigger, by the way, he brought unplugged barista tools. He taught my 7-year-old Sam to make and drink latte that they would drink together every morning before breakfast. I wish I got a shot of that. He's already the snobbiest coffee drinker I've ever met, certainly for a 7-year-old. This is Adrian. He was the artist in residence when we were there. He'd come from England for that opportunity. Again, it's amazing how the word spreads. Adrian set my son Ben up with his own parallel studio right next to Adrian's, and they would talk and do art together right next to one another. Like, how wonderful is that? Meanwhile, Sam was more than happy to model for Adrian, casting boy-sized shadows and filling boy-shaped spaces around the houses and on the beach, as Adrian imagined the artwork that's now being auctioned over here, right here tonight, at tonight's fundraiser. Adrian also asked me to describe my experience parenting the boys on the island as he imagined this work of art and tried to think of what it would be like to raise your family here as a lighthouse keeper. And I woke one night full of words, my head full of words, and I wrote them down by headlamp on a sheet ripped from my notebook, and I gifted them to him over breakfast. And from those, he picked out the words used on that work of art, and also on one of the cards that he's created that are also available for sale. I think some have been brought here today as a fundraising fodder. It was a privilege, as I said, in so many ways. But I can't describe time on a property of Canadian Lighthouses at Lake Superior without mentioning Paul Morley and Donnie Wabass. All these goings-on have so much to do with these two, particularly Paul Morley. He's the managing director. He's the guy who's always been there, right? Donnie, too, though, he's been there a lot for many summers and quietly keeps everything running smoothly, day to day. Paul is not only there all summer long, he's working on this all the time, pulling in so many intersecting interests and communities together to support the cause. And they both work so hard. I feel like I'm on vacation calling myself a volunteer, and then I really feel it because they're never stopping to do things. Not just doing things that need doing, but doing things they've imagined with creativity and with such respect for all the lives that have been touched by this piece of land and all of the deep spirituality of the land itself. And then, despite all that busyness, they still found time to take us on a little cruise on Paul's boat and let the boys take the wheel to their absolute delight. So we had really good company on our time on Porphyry Island, and that's not even mentioning the non-human neighbors, seen and unseen. That was our week as host lightkeepers at Porphyry Island, a little adventure that it sings every day in our hearts, every day. And this is your opportunity to help make it keep on happening. Volunteer, donate, be a member, join the board, book a stay, or just pop in. Community organizations like this, they can start off an amazing thing, and then there comes a time when they need new people to step in and say, how can I help make this happen? What can I add? It's never a bad time to make those kinds of offers. And I want to thank you already for all you've already done and that you do to protect and preserve and promote Canadian lighthouses of Lake Superior. This is just a beginning. We need your help to build this beginning into a lasting legacy. Somewhere back there is a picture I wanted to end on, but it's all good. Thanks.